Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum, welcome, konnichiwa, hello, guten tag, hola. Today we're looking at fractional and negative powers. This is the first question. This is a paper 1 question from November 2017. This is the first of 13 questions. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready for the answer, press play. Question 10a. Write down the value of 100 to the power half. Find the value of 125 to the power 2 over 3. So when we have a power of half, we have to recognize that a half is the same as a square root. And so the square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 gives us 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. So my answer is 10. Nice start to the question. Part B, find the value of 125 to the power 2 over 3. So we have 125 to the power 2 over 3. So step 1 is I work on the root, and step 2 is I raise it to the power. So let me write this out. Step 1 is I find the root, and step 2 I raise it to the power. And so what number, so if I look at step 1, the cube root of 125, and then step 2 is I square it, 2 is I square it. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 125? So once, twice, 3 times gives me 125. 1 times 1 times 1 is not 125. 2 times 2 times 2 is not 125. 3 times 3 times 3 is not. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 4 times 4 times 4 is not. And then the last one is 5 times 5 is 25. Times by 5 gives me 125. So this equals to 25. Then I square it. So what am I saying? 5, sorry. And then I do 5 times 5, which gives me 25. So my final answer becomes 25. Okay, nice, easy start to the exam. So this is our first question. Let's go on to, I've done an analysis on this topic, and you can see here how often this occurs in exams. So I've looked at exam papers from 2017 all the way up to 2023. And this occurs in every single paper, and you can see how often this is occurring. It occurs mainly in paper 1, but there has been occasions where it's appeared in paper 3. So this is, it can occur in paper 3 as well as paper 1. Paper 3 is a calculator paper. Okay, let's go on to the next question. This is our second question. This question is from, again, paper 1, so non-calculator, from November 2022. This is our second out of 13 questions. Work out the value of 8 over 27 to the power 4 over 3. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answer. Okay, so similar to the last question, the difference is we now have a fraction, but the same steps. Step 1 is our denominator, step 2 is our numerator. So step 1 is the root. In this case, it's our cube root. And step 2 is I raise it to the power of 4. Okay, so I'm going to do the cube root of 8 over the cube root of 27. And step 2 is I raise it to the power 4. I raise this to the power 4. Okay, so now if I look at the numerator, top number, what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 8? If you remember the working out from the last question, 1 times 1 times 1 is not 8. 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So the cube root of 8 is 2. I'm going to raise that to the power 4. Now I'm going to look at the cube root of 27. What number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 27? So it's not 1, it's not 2. If I look at 3 times 3 times 3, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So it's cube root of 27 is 3, and I raise it to the power 4. And so now 2 to the power 4 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So my answer here is 16 over 3 to the power 4. So that's 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That gives me 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. So my final answer is 16 over 81. Okay, let's go to the next question. And here's a little quote. Every expert was once a beginner. So if you are new to this, keep practicing so that you become an expert. So we're now on question 3 of 13. This is again paper 1 from May 2018. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answer. 9a, write down the value of 36 to the power half. Question 9b, write down the value of 23 to the power 0. And C, work out the value of 27 to the power minus 2 over 3. Okay, so again, similar to one of the previous questions, when we see a power of half, that's the same as square root. So what two numbers multiplied gives me 36? What's the same number twice, rather? The same number twice. 1 times 1 is not that. 2 times 2 is not that. 3 squared, 4 squared, 4 times 4 is not that. 5 times 5 is not that. 6 times 6 is 36. So my answer is 6 here. Write down the value of 23 to the power 0. Anything to the power 0 is always 1. This is a classic mistake students make. Anything to the power 0 is always 1. Please remember that. Part C, work out the value of 27 to the power negative 2/3. So this is slightly different from the previous questions. So I've got a negative here. That's my step 1. My step 2 is the denominator. And the numerator is my step 3. Okay, so what does that mean? So step 1 is reciprocal. If you don't remember, for example, 2 over 3 becomes 3 over 2. That's a reciprocal. Or if I have a whole number, let's say I have the number 9, can become 1 over 9, because 9 as a fraction is 9 over 1. Step 2 is similar to what we've done before. Step 2 is my root. In this case, the cube root again. And then step 3 is raising to the power. So if I work on this, so I've got step 1 is a reciprocal. So 27 becomes 1 over all of that. So that's the negative disappears. Step 2 is the root. So I'm going to have 27 cube rooted. And then step 2 is raised to the power 2. And so now I've done my step 1. I can go to step 2, which is the root. Just make this clear a little bit. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times will give us 27? 1 times 1 times 1, 2 times 2 times 2, and it's 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So it becomes 1 over 3, and then I square it. So that's just 3 times 3, which is 9. So that's my final answer is 1 over 9. Okay, and then hopefully you are noticing that the similar things are happening, or the same things in this case. We had the cube root and we're raising to the power 2. So these things will be a pattern that's emerging, hopefully. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, the next question is from question number 4 of 13. Again, non-calculator paper from November 2021. We're going to skip question 8 because that's not part of our topic list. Here it is. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answer. Okay, I'm going to read the questions. 9a, write down the value of 7 to the power 0. Find the value of 3 times 3 to the power 6 times 3 to the power minus 6. I'm just going to rewrite this. And this was 7 to the power 0. Find the value of 2 to the power minus 4. Find the value of 27 to the power a third. Okay, so remembering anything to the power 0 is always 1. So this has occurred previously. So hopefully you've got that right. Nice, easy mark here. Here we spot that we've got 3, 3, 3. So 3 is the base, so we can ignore that. We've got 3 when it's by itself. It's got a power. There's an invisible 1 there. So now all I have to do is I can just add the powers. 1 plus 6, take away 6. 6 take away 6 is 0, so that's just 1. So this is 3 to the power 1. Now if I read the question again said find the value. And so 3 by itself, I can change it to a number which is just 3. So my final answer is 3. Nice 1 mark question here. Again, similar things for these questions. Find the value, find the value. So we shouldn't have our answers as powers. So find the value of 2 to the power minus 4. So if we have a negative, so step 1 here is I have a reciprocal because it's a negative. Reciprocal. And then step 2 will be to work it out. So this now becomes 1 all over 2 to the power 4. And now I can work it out. 1 all over 2 happens 4 times. So 2 times 2, that's twice. 3, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So it's 1 over 16 is my final answer. Part D, find the value of 27 to the power third. So here I've got my denominator is 3. So I'm looking for the root here, which is the cube root of 27. So this is normally my step 1, and this is my step 2. In this case, because it's 1, I can ignore that. I'll just do it for the sake of consistency. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 27? Okay, we've done this now for a few times, and we should know that it's 3. 3 times 3 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27. So this is 3 to the power 1, which is just 3. Okay, so we can, if we have 1 in a way, we could ignore it. So my final answer is 3. Okay. Right, let's go to the next question. This is our 5th question now. So this is our 5th of 13. This is from May 2017. Again, paper 1. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answer. Find the value of 81 to the power minus a half. And here, find the value of 64 all over 125 to the power 2 over 3. Okay, so step 1, I have got a negative here, and here I've got step 2. So step 1 is reciprocal, and step 2 is a root. And so now I can say this is 1 all over 81 to the power half. And you'll notice that when we have a half, it's the same as a square root. So square root of 81. And so what number multiplied by itself gives us 81? It's not 1 squared, 2. So just go through it in order. 2, 3, 4, 5 squared is 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. So 9 times 9 gives me 81. So my answer is 1 over 9. Okay, hopefully, if you know your times tables, that's going to be quick and easy for you. Let's go to the next part, part B. Find the value of 64 over 125 raised to the power 2/3. So similar to previous questions, this is my step 1, which is my root. Notice 3 is coming up quite often, and step 2 is raising it to the power. And again, we've worked with 2 before, so we can speed it up a little bit. Step 1 is root, and step 2 is power. So I can do the cube root of 64, and I raise it to the power 2, and I do the cube root of 125, and I raise it to the power 2. Okay, so which number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 64? We've done 3 before, so 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. So it's 4. Then I'm going to square that. So 4 times 4 is 16. And now I can work on this one. Which number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 125? I've done 4. The next one is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Times by 5 is 125. I think this is the second time we're coming across cube root of 125. So 5 squared, which is 5 times 5, which is 25. So my final answer is 16 over 25. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Our 6th question of our exam pack, and this is from June 2019, and this is paper 3. So you can see it's a calculator paper, but even though it is a calculator paper, you can see that question there. Press pause and have a go. Question 12. Patrick has to work out the exact value of 64 to the power 1/4, or a quarter. Patrick says a quarter of 64 is 16. So 64 to the power a quarter is 16. Explain what is wrong with what Patrick says. Sometimes with these kind of questions, it's easier to just completely ignore what's going on. And let's just look at this. Let's look at the question. What is this? This is 64 to the power a quarter. Okay, so that means it's the fourth root. And now that we've done that, we can, so the fourth root is this, the fourth root. So explain what is wrong with what Patrick says. Patrick said it's a quarter. And so what is wrong is it's a power to the power 2, the 64 to the power a quarter, not divide by 4. I'm just going to make it clear also by adding it should be the fourth root of 64. Okay, so I've just made it really, really clear where the mistake is. I've said what it's not and what it should be, just to make it clear to the examiner. So this is more like a literacy question in a way. All right, let's go to the next question. The next question now is from May 2019. This is our 7th out of 13 questions. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play. Okay, so work out an estimate for the value of 63.5 times 101.7. So I'm just going to rewrite this. 63.5 times 101.7 all square rooted. Then we've got part B, which is 2.3 to the power 6 equals 148, correct to 3 significant figures. Find the value of 0.23 to the power 6, correct to 3 significant figures. And then we've got part C, find the value of 5 to the power minus 2. This is similar to a different question we've done earlier on. So if you can't remember, go back and have a watch of the previous questions we've done. Okay, so press pause. When you're ready, press play. Work out an estimate. That's a key word here for the value. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at this. Normally, estimate is one significant figure. One significant figure. So now I'm going to look at this. This is going to become 60 times, this is going to become 100. Okay, so this is now one significant figure. Now 6 times 1 is 6, then I can add 6 zeros, 3 zeros, sorry, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 zeros, and it's square rooted. Now the issue is this is like it's not a simple answer, it's a paper 1, and it should be a simple answer. I don't want to be guessing. There must be another way of doing this. I'm going to go back to the original question. Because it's an estimate, I'm going to go back to the original question. I'm just going to rewrite it here. 63.5 times 101.7. Okay, I'm working with square roots now. I'm happy with 100 that I got earlier. Now, if I look at this carefully, 63.5 can be 64. Now, what I realize is 64 is a square number. 8 times 8 gives me 64. And so this is now 8 times 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, so now I've got 8 times 10, much easier. 8 times 10 is 80. So now that's a nice, quick answer. And the mark scheme, if you have anything between 75 to 81, you get this correct. So you could try and do an estimation here if you didn't think on your feet and you started just working this out. But sometimes just be mindful that paper one, these estimate, you shouldn't be doing complicated calculations. So I'm going to cross this out because I'm not happy with that, but I am happy with this. Okay, let's go to part B now. Okay, 2.3 to the power 6 equals 148, correct to 3 significant figures. Find the value of 0.23 to the power 6, correct to 3 significant figures. So I'm just going to write these next to each other. 2.3 to the power 6 equals 148. Then I'm going to 0.23 to the power 6. What is that going to be? Now, I am looking for patterns. If I spot a pattern here, this is 2.3 divided by 10. Gives me 0.23. So what I can do is I can think of this as 2.3 divided by 10. And I've got a power of 6 here. Okay, now I can separate these. 2.3 to the power 6 divided by 10 to the power 6. And now hopefully you've spotted what can happen now. I can spot that 2.3 to the power 6 is 148 from here. 148 divided by 10 to the power 6 is just 1 with 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so now I can just write this out as 148 divided by 1,000. So my place value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put my decimal point there. Add my zeros. And so now this just becomes 0.000148. Find the value of 0.23 to the power 6, correct to 3 significant figures. My answer has 3 significant figures at the end. Okay, so a lot of work. But if you're doing this in your head, hopefully you can make the connections and you can get to the answer like that. Let's look at part C. Find the value of 5 to the power minus 2. So again, we've got a negative. A negative means reciprocal. And so I can do 1 over 5 squared. So now the negative has disappeared. It's now positive. So that's just 1 over 5 times 5. 5 squared is 5 times 5. So 1 over 25. And that's my final answer. So hopefully you've got those answers. Let's go to the next one, question 8. Okay, so this is question 8 of 13. Again, paper 1 from November 2018. Press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answer. The question says, work out the value of 16 over 81 to the power 3 over 4. And then this one says 3 to the power a equals 1 over 9. I'm just going to rewrite this. 3 to the power b equals 9 and root 3, 3 to the power c equals 1 over root 3. Work out the value of a plus b plus c. And both of these questions are worth 2 marks each. Okay, so similar to before, we've seen these before. So if you're stuck, go back to the previous questions and have a look at them. Our step 1 is our root, and then we raise to the power. This is our step 2. So step 1 is our fourth root, and step 2 is raised to the power. So I am going to do 16, and it's the fourth root raised to the power 3, 81 to the fourth root, then I raise it to the power 3. Okay, so fourth root of 16. So what number multiplied by itself 4 times gives me 16? Okay, so I can go through them in order. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. I can do it in my head. It doesn't work. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So that works. So this is 2 to the power 3. And so now this one you can work out. 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. Over what number multiplied by itself 4 times gives me 81. So we've done 2, the next one must be 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. So that works. So this is 3 raised to the power 3. So we've done that. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Eight over 27 is my final answer. And again, these numbers look really complicated to the 4 and 3, but because it's non-calculator, they all kind of give you really nice, simple answers. 2 and 3 is what we had here, and then you raise it to the power. So you should be able to do this in an exam under pressure. All right, let's go on to this question now. This is completely different to the ones that we've done previously, but again, there are links and we want to make these connections. So 3 to the power a equals to 9, 3 to the power b equals to 9 root 3, and 3 to the power c is 1 over root 3. Work out the value of a plus b plus c. So the connection here is clearly all of these have a base of 3. So we have to connect 1 over 9 to 3. We have to connect 9 root 3 to 3, and we want to connect 3 root 3 to 3 as well. So I'm just going to rewrite 1 over 9 for now. 1 over 9 is, if it's connected to 3, 3 to the power something, 3 to the power 2. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 squared is 9. Now, remember, if it's at the bottom, it's like a reciprocal. So this I can rewrite as 3 to the power. It's at the bottom, so it's a negative 2. So I've got that now. So my a equals 2 minus 2. Okay, so that's one part I've got. And now hopefully you can use this similar pattern for b. So I'm going to write 9 root 3. Okay, so in terms of 3's, so first of all, 9 root 3 is the same as 9 times root 3. Okay, like x, imagine if it was x, 9 times x, but here we've got a third. So now what's the next thing now? 3, 9 is 3 squared, so we've done that before here. Now remember the shortcut. If we have a square root, the shortcut it's a half, or roots have an invisible 2 there. Okay, so you've got that. Now, if you have the same base, and you're multiplying, you add the power. So 2 plus half is 2.5. So I'll use that as a decimal for now, 2.5. I might have to go back to a fraction, but I'll keep it as a decimal for now. Now I can go to 3 to the power c, so that's 1 over root 3. Okay, so spotting it, if it's a square root, then it's going to be a power of half. So this is going to be 1 over 3 to the power half. And now I can spot this is a reciprocal. This is a denominator. It's at the bottom. And so this can be a negative. So it's going to be 3 to the power minus a half. And because I've used decimals, I'll put this as 3 minus 0.5. Okay, so here my b was 2.5. You can see b is 2.5, and here my c is minus 0.5. And the question is saying, work out the value of a plus b plus c. So if I have a plus b plus c, my a is minus 2, my b is 2.5, and my c is minus 0.5. 2 take away 0.5 is minus 2.5 plus 2.5. They cancel each other out. It becomes 0. So my answer, the value of a plus b plus c is 0. Okay, 2 marks. Hopefully you can do these things a little bit faster in your head. I'm explaining them, but you can hopefully spot 9 is 3 squared. Then you've got the reciprocal, so minus 2. And here you've got 3 squared, and then it's raised to the power half. So it's 2 and a half is 2.5. Here you've got half again, and then it's a reciprocal minus half, and then you just add them. So hopefully you can do this faster. All right, so I hope you found this useful. Let's go to the next question. We've got 5 more to go. This is question 9 of 13. Again, this is from May 2020, paper 1. Find the value of the fourth root of 81 times 10 to the power 8. Find the value of 64 to the power minus half. And then here we've got write 3 to the power n over 9 to the power n minus 1 as a power of 3. So this one is similar to what we've just done now. Press pause when you are ready. Press play for the answer. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the first one, I am going to split this up into 2 parts. So I've got the fourth root of 81, and you may spot that we've done this before, and the fourth root of 10 to the power 8. Okay, so now let's work on this. Something multiplied by itself 4 times, because it's the fourth root. 1, 2, 3, 4 times gives me 81. So I can go through my options. 1 is going to be 1. 2 times 2, 4, 8, 16. 3 times 3 is 9. Times 3 is 27. Times 3 is 81. So my answer here is 3. So this is 3. And now here, remember, if it's a root, the power is a fraction. So the denominator, 8 over 4. So the denominator of the fraction is the root. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this is 3 times 10 to the power 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this is 3 times 100. 10 times 10 is 100. And so we have 300. Okay, so that's kind of I've gone through it, but you can hopefully do this in your head much faster. Nice 2 marks there. Let's look at part B now. Again, if you haven't answered, press pause. Okay, so here we've done this previously, so we want to find the value of 64 to the power minus a half. Okay, so I've got a negative, so my step one is reciprocal. And step two is, this is a half, and so half is going to be square root. Okay, so this is going to be 1 all over 64 half to the power half, which is 1 over square root of 64. What number multiplied by itself gives me 64? It has to be 8. So 8 times 8 gives me 64. So my answer is 1 over 8. Okay, again, another nice 2 marks there. Okay, so now the next part is the tricky part, similar to what we did in the last question at the end. Write 3 to the power n over 9 to the power n minus 1 as a power of 3. So the key here is power of 3. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the numerator 3 to the power n over, I'm going to change the 9 in terms of power of 2. So 9 is 3 squared. So I'm going to put 3 squared here in brackets, and it's raised to the power n minus 1. Okay, so that's the first thing. And just by doing that, that's a method mark. Now the next thing is I've got to play around with this. So I'm going to have 3 to the power n all over, and then this is going to be 2 times n, and I'm going to be multiplying this as well. So this is going to become 3 to the power 2 times n is 2n, then 2 times 1 is 2, so minus 2. Now this is the tricky bit. We've got dividing, which means that when I am, so I've got base of 3, so I can just write it as 3 now. Now I can work on my n. So I've got n, take away all of this. Okay, so I'm just going to write this out in brackets, take away 2n minus 2. All right, so here we've got a negative and a negative, so we need to be careful about this. So this is where I'm going to just, there's an invisible 1, so I'm going to write that out here. And I'm going to go through this slowly. So minus 1 times 2 is minus 2n. Minus times a minus gives me a positive. Minus 1, 1 times 2 is 2. And so now I've got n take away 2n is minus 1n. So I'm going to have 3 to the power minus n. I don't need to write 1n plus 2. And you could write this out neatly if you wanted. You can write it out as 3 to the power 2 minus n. And that is my final answer. Now, I've really gone through this step by step, because if you're rushing through it, you're going to get the signs wrong. And if you get the signs wrong, then you lose out on a mark. So just don't rush, take your time. I tried to slow it down, especially when you get these negatives, taking away negative and a negative and so on. If you were to do this, n take away 2n, and then negative taking away then with a minus gives us a plus. So just be very, very careful. When I first did this initially, I made a mistake. So you can carelessly make a mistake, and this is the difference between, you know, a grade 4 and a 5, or a 5 and a 6, are these little marks. Even students that I've had, I was expecting them to get 9s and they got 8s, probably on little questions like this where they've just rushed through it and they have made mistakes. Okay, and especially if you have a bad exam or if you have an exam where the grade boundaries are really, really high, so you need to be very, very careful about these little marks. Okay, let's move on to the next question. question 10 of 13. So we've got a few more left. This is from May 2023, paper 1. We're going to ignore this question. Hopefully you're getting familiar with this and you've started to master this. Question 14a. Write 1 out over 16 in the form 4 to the power n, where n is an integer. Work out the value of 8 to the power 5 over 3, take away 9, and 3 over 2. Okay, press pause. When you're ready, press play for the answer. So what I noticed is it's asking us to write in the form of 4 to the power n. And I realized that 4 squared gives me 16. So 1 over 16 equals to 1 over 4 squared. Okay, now 4 squared, remember it's at the bottom, the denominator, so I can write this as I cannot leave my answer like that. It's asking me for 4 to the power n, so it needs to be, because it's at the denominator, it's going to be a negative, so it's minus 2. Okay, so just being a little bit careless there, you could easily lose that mark. So having that there, exactly the way the question has asked us to. Work out part B, work out the value of 8 to the power 5 over 3. So similar to before, step 1 is our root and step 2 is our power. Step 1 is our root, step 2 is our power. And so with this one, I'm going to have the cube root of 8, and I'm going to raise it to the power 5, and I'm also going to have this one here, the root is 2, so the square root of 9, 2. Denominator is 2, and then I'm raising it to the power 3. Okay, so this one here, what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 8. Okay, it's not 1, it's 2 times 2 times 2. So it's 2 to the power 5. So this is 2 5 times, once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So this is 32. Take away. And so square root of 9 is 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. So this is 3 to the power 3. So again, 3 multiplied by itself 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. You should be mastering this, and hopefully you're doing this very, very quickly now. And now I can do 37. 37, why did I do that? I wrote 32 and I wrote 36 here. 32, take away 27 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 18, 16, 32, 32, take away 27. And be careful, you may have noticed what I've just done. I wrote here 32, and I wrote there 36. In the exam, little things like that you might be doing as well. I've just done it carelessly, so just be very, very careful about that as well. And what I've just said earlier about being careless, making little mistakes, so just be mindful about that. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So that was worth 3 marks, slightly more than previous questions. Okay, the next question. And if you are finding this beneficial, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends if it's helpful for you. And also the questions, they are in the description of the video if I haven't mentioned it already. All right, this is now question 11 of 13. Okay, this is from November 2023. This is paper 1. And this question is worth 3 marks. Press pause and have a go. So this question is saying, work out the value of 27 to the power 2 over 3 plus a half to the power minus 3. So I don't think we've come across a question like this. There are bits that are similar, this part here, but this part is not similar from what I can remember. I can look back and have a look. So pause the video, have a go. When you're ready, press play. So similar to before, we can work out the first term here, and then we've got the second term here. Now with this second term, there's a negative here. So let me break it into steps if you like. So step 1 is term 1. And the term 1, this is my subset if you like. It's the root and then a power. So I'm going to do the cube root of 27. I'm going to raise it to the power 2. And then step 2 is my second term. The second term has a negative here. So this is my reciprocal. And then I am raising it to the power 3. Okay, so that's what I need to be mindful of. Okay, so I've kind of written this out. I'll come back to this shortly. So let's work on this. So the cube root of 27. What number multiplied by itself 3 times gives me 27. Hopefully you've memorized it by now, which is fine. And if you forget, work it out. Start from 1 times 1 times 1. It's not possible. 2 gives you 8, and 3 gives you 27. 9 times 3 is 27. So this is 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. So this is 9. This is plus. Now I'm going to be working on my second term. So I've got a reciprocal here. Now with a fraction, if I have a reciprocal, I just swap them. So 1 over 2 now becomes 2 over 1. And then I raise it to the power 3. Okay. So now this is saying 2 to the power 3 over 1 to the power 3. Okay. And so that's 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So this is 8. And then 1 times 1 times 1 is also 1. So it's just divided by 1. So 8 divided by 1 is just 8. So 9 plus 8 gives me 17. So hopefully you have the same answer as me. Okay, so 3 marks there. The method marks, where are the method marks? The first mark is if you have the root. Another mark if you get 9. And then you've got that part here. So your first part, the second line. Right, let's go to the next question, question 12. Okay, it's getting harder now, as you can see, from what we started to where we're at now. This is from November 2019, paper 1 again, question 19. If we look at the previous questions, when they are getting harder, they're kind of middle and end of the paper. So question 19, it's harder. And this one is also worth 3 marks. It's worth 3 marks. So press pause. And when you're ready, press play for the answer. Given that 9 to the power minus a half equals 27 to the power a quarter divided by 3 to the power x plus 1, find the exact value of x. So the first thing I need to think about is connections. What is connecting me? Connections. What is the connection here? So the connection is 9, 27, and 3. So if we think about it, the connection has to be 3, because 3 squared is 9, 3 cubed is 27. So I'm working with powers of 3. So that's my step 1, if you like, connections. My step 2 is I'm going to be connecting 3 with each of these terms. So I'm going to be writing them in terms of powers of 3. Okay, so I'm connecting them, and then hopefully I'll be able to make a step 3 is an equation where I can find x. Okay, so now let's look at this. So we've got 9 to the power minus half. So that I know is going to be 3 squared to the power minus a half. The next thing now, a power of a power, we can multiply. 3 to the power 2 times minus a half. So the 2's will cancel. So I'm going to be left with 3 to the power minus 1. Okay, so I've got that here. That's my first 3. Let's go to the next one. 27 to the power a quarter. Okay, so similarly, 3 squared is 9. 3 cubed is 27. I'm going to put brackets around it, and then I've got a quarter there. So this is now a power of a power again. So a power of a power we multiply. So 3 to the power 3 times a quarter. And now that simplifies to 3 to the power 3 over 4. 3 times 1 is 3 over 4. So that's my next part. And now I'm looking at my third part, which is, well, it's already in threes, in terms of 3. So I can now replace this into here. So I'm going to put this as 3 to the power minus half equals 3 to the power 3 over 4 divided by 3 to the power x plus 1. Okay, so now this isn't really, just to make it more eye-friendly to me, I'm going to put this as a fraction because it's like that. So I am going to need more space. My spacing hasn't been perfect on this occasion. I'm just going to rewrite this as 3 to the power minus a half equals 3 and 3 quarters all over 3 x plus 1. Okay, so now I can see the 3's are there connected, so that's fine. So now I can ignore the 3's. I can ignore the 3's and I can do my step 3, which is create an equation. And so my equation becomes minus 1 equals 3 over 4. When I divide, I'm taking away, take away x plus 1. Okay. Powers, when we're dividing powers, we subtract, so minus x plus 1. Okay, so now the next thing, now I just need to rearrange to make x the subject. Okay, so what I am going to do now is, you can do this many ways. I want to keep everything positive, so I'm going to bring this to the other side. So opposite of minus 1 is plus 1, so I'm going to have 3 over 4 plus 1. And this now becomes 0, so 3 over 4 plus 1, and that's minus x plus 1. And now I'm going to take all of this part here to the other side. So opposite of minus is plus, so it's going to become x plus 1 all equals to 3 over 4 plus 1. And now I can just remove this plus 1 as well. So minus 1 on both sides. So x equals to 3 over 4 plus 1 plus 1. Just being careful about things. Did I make a mistake here? Because I've got these negatives, that's what I'm looking at. So you've got that, this is got minus here. So I haven't expanded the brackets here. I've made a little mistake. Let me just correct that. I should have expanded this, but I didn't do that. Let me just rewrite this out. So this would have been plus the signs change essentially. Let me rewrite this again. This bit here. I'll just do this here. 3 minus 1 equals 3 over 4 divided by 3x plus 1. Okay, so this I can ignore the 3's, it becomes minus 1 equals 3 over 4 take away x plus 1. So I'm going to make this 3 over 4 take away x minus 1. There we are. Okay, so I can bring this to the other side. Opposite is plus 1. Plus 1. So if I write this out neatly, equals 3 over 4 plus 1 minus x minus 1. Now I can get rid of the x. I can take it to the other side. So the opposite of that is plus x. X equals to 3 over 4 plus 1 minus 1. And you can see the 1's cancel out. X equals to 3 over 4. Okay, so that is my final answer. All right, and so just be careful with this bit here. You can see the negatives and everything has messed it up a little bit for me. Okay, so I should have tidied it up earlier, just like here. So be very, very careful. Just double check your working out and just check your answers. So because I was doing a check as I was going along, I noticed the negative. So here, expanding the brackets, minus x, negative and a positive makes a negative. And then I can just take things to the other side. Minus 1 becomes plus 1, minus x becomes plus x. And that's my final answer. So what's the exact value of x? It's 3 over 4. Okay, so it is getting harder. Let's go to the last question. Question 13 of 13. So if you're still with me, well done. This is from May 2022, paper 1 again. Press pause and have a go when you're ready for the answer. Press play. This is worth 4 marks, so many more marks up for grabs. Okay, so work out the value of 5 and 4/9 to the power minus a half times 4 and 2/3 all over 2 to the power minus 3. You must show all your working out. So there's lots going on here. So I am going to be working on each part. So step 1 is work on each term. So work on first term. And so here I'm going to have to change this to a, this is a mixed number, so I'm going to change this to a fraction. After I've changed it to a fraction, this has got a negative here, so I've got a reciprocal, and then my power is a half, and a half is square root. Okay, so that's one thing. And then step 2, so you can see there's lots of sub-steps. Step 2 is I'm going to be working on the second term, which looks easier to do actually, because it's just changing it from a mixed number to a fraction, improper fraction. And then the last part, step 3, the final part, is to use the denominator. Manipulate, use denominator. Manipulate. Okay, so let's look at this. So I've got 5 times 9 equals 45. At the numerator, 45 plus 4 gives me 49. So I've got 49 over 9 to the power minus a half. Now, because it's reciprocal, I can swap these around, so that now becomes 9 over 49, and it's still a half. So because it's a half, I can do the square root of 9, square root of 49. Okay, so square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 49 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49, so I've got that. My second part here is 4 2/3. So I'm doing 4 times 3 equals 12. At the numerator, 12 plus 2 equals 14. So this now becomes 14 over 3. Okay, and I'm multiplying them. So what I can spot is the 3's cancel, and this is 14. 2 times 7 gives me 14, so 7 will cancel the 14, I'll be left with 2. So I've got 2 here. So all of that hard work, all of this simplifies nicely to 2. So I can write this out as 2 all over, and I've got 2 to the power minus 3. And so remember, there's an invisible 1 here, so the base is 2, so I've got 2 to the power 1 dividing, so it's subtract minus 3. And so I can see here 2 to the power 1, a negative and a negative makes a plus 3. So that's 1 plus 3 is 4, so 2 to the power 4. Work out the value. So the value is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the power 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. My final answer is 16. So all of that work for that. So where are the method marks for this? So the method mark would be doing the reciprocal here. The reciprocal or a square root. That would be a method mark. The second mark is for working it out to be 2. And then for this manipulation here, when you get to 2 to the power 4, that's another method mark. And then your final answer for 16, an accuracy mark. So those are your 4 marks. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've learned something, please do share it with your friends. And I'll see you to the next time. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum. Guten Tag. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye-bye.